All right, we are live. Zoom updated so they don't have like the big little green box anymore. So you actually have to look for the words. But this is, I say it every week. I'm going to keep saying it every week. It's my favorite time because you're seeing tons of people log in, all of our friends. We're going to give them some time to get on the call before we start, the big conversation. But we have a great panel this week. One, I should say, welcome back. Thank you for logging in and tuning into us week after week. Um, we this year, as I've mentioned, have been focusing kind of on recovery, right? Last year it was just all about staying connected, making sure people were okay, seeing each other's faces, kind of learning what plans were. We kind of shifted this year to how do we partner? How do we work together? How do we move forward? Now that we truly see a light at the end of the tunnel. And on our prep call a couple of days ago, we were discussing that hey, there's vaccines are going in arms, new things are getting approved, new vaccines are getting approved, and countries around the world have announced an actual plan of how they're going to open. And that, is that positive feeling that you're finally truly seeing that light. You're not just saying it so everybody feels better. And that I love. So as we see that happening this year, how do we start? How do we partner? How do we make sure things are working? And that is not just with a buyer, it's buyers and suppliers and DMOs and their suppliers and different states, different regions on partnering to make things happen. So that's really what we wanted to focus on today, especially in the panel, is amazing. So watch out. We all have a lot to say. So this hour is going to go by very, very quickly. I should always begin and say thanks to Betsy at Tour Operator Land. She works hard to make sure that we get great speakers and great panels and relevant topics. And if you don't work with Tour Operator Land or don't know anything about it, reach out to Betsy. She's going to put her information in the chat so we can give her some love as well, and you can learn a little bit more about a super cool tool. So I see Randall, great to see Nashville friends on, right? I see him, like I look over and that's the first name I see. So really, really good things that we're going to talk about here. Everyone's already done it and put their name in the chat, like I always suggest to do. So let us know where you're coming in from if you haven't put your name in the chat. Questions can go in the chat, but it's a little bit harder to keep track of. We will eventually find them, but if you put them in Q&A, they'll be right there and we can get to them in a timely fashion. But I am going to go ahead and get started and let our panelists introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what they do and what their companies are all about. So we're going to start with LouAnna, who was like the ringleader of this group. So LouAnna, thank you for being here.
Hey, Sherry, thank you so much. I just want to say thanks to Connect. I've been listening to these, like many of you, for so long, and they've been really helpful and really at one point in time, the only way that I could really feel that I wasn't the only one in this boat of, I don't know, bad news. So it's been really nice to feel that connection. So thank you. And thank you to Betsy as well. But I'm LouAnna Henton. For those of you that don't know me, from the Nashville Convention and Visitors Corporation, also known as Visit Music City. I've been there for just over 5 years, and I'm their senior tourism sales manager. So my focus is primarily on the domestic travel trade, as well as Canada. So we work with professional tour operators, travel agents, and the Canadian market. And there are 3 of us on the travel tourism team at the CBC. So thankful to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. And I learned 2 weeks ago on our little prep call that LouAnna is now, like, she exercises every day at lunch, and which already made me feel like a slug. But she did tell me that she catches up on our webinars and listens to them while she works out. And who knew anybody did that? Thank you. That's so cool. I appreciate that.
I bet you that I'm not the only one. I'm betting you there are several others that do the same thing. You have to say in the chat.
Love it. So over to, at least on my screen, over to LouAnna's left is Urte. Tell us about what's going on other than dumping snow where you are right now.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Urte. I'm in beautiful Denver, Colorado, and we have had just a massive snowstorm over the last 10 hours. So glad to be here, and thanks for inviting me to join the panel. So I'm the owner of AdvantEdge Tours, and I'm your site past president, and know all about the pandemic firsthand, I want to say. I'm in travel for over 30 years, and I can truly say I have never experienced a year like the last. But even though if I'm thinking it's slowed down, I'm still busy with all the good stuff, listening to webinars, being part of webinars, meeting up with industry friends. So I'm so glad to be here. So thank you so much.
Love it that you're here. Thank you for being here and taking the time. And last but not least, our friend Kelly. Talk to us about what's going on. Somehow you guys have been managed to stay open since May of last year, right?
Yes, we
Tell
have.
us about you and what's going on with you.
Oh, thank you, Sherry. Hi, everyone. Good to be here. We opened on May 29th. My name is Kelly Field, for those of you that don't know me, and I am the general manager for Madame Tussauds, Nashville. So we are the most famous wax museum of MT and that premier brand. We opened on May 29th as soon as the Mayor Cooper in Nashville said that we could reopen using all safety precautions. And we've been open, oh gosh, I guess we're going into 10 months now. It doesn't seem that long. We closed in March and we were closed for 2 months. So then we opened the end of May. And the focus is recovery, recovery, recovery. As far as our attraction, I focus on everything sales and marketing as well as the operations of the attraction. We do have a marketing manager here on site that we're working closely with, but that's my role.
Love it.
Thank you.
Can't wait to hear how those 10 months of recovery went and what you did to keep the doors open for those 10 months. And I'm sure that there's some great stories there.
You know, it's been a slow dial up, not a we didn't just turn on the lights. It's been
so you know, as we have questions that come in here, the first thing that I always like to ask is, hey, what are the primary focuses right now? What are you doing right now to kind of gear up for recovery, and how are you partnering with your community or your buyer partners, your clients? You know, how is that focus going? And I'm going to start with and put LouAnna on the spot.
So we have had a marketing message ready and prepared quite some time, and we just didn't feel like it was the right time to push our message out there several times. So we've had a great commercial filmed. It was ready to go, but we pulled it. It just didn't seem like the right time. Now I do feel like we're at a point where we are going to start pushing that message out. So we've moved more from an inspirational message to a call to action. And that's what's going to be pushed is we are here for you when you're ready to travel, but we've been creating while you've been away. So our message has been mostly, here's what we've done over the last several months while you haven't been able to visit. So that's really kind of where we're going. We've done lots of virtual client events for specific clients, as well as just bringing in a slew of people from around the globe, internationally as well as domestically. So trying to partner as best as we can, but right now our focus is pushing the message out that we're a safe destination. We just got a designation yesterday, so it's good timing with the World Travel and Tourism Council. We're one of only 2 cities in the United States with a safe travels designation. And that means a lot for us. We have worked really hard since May of last year to push that safety message so that we can safely welcome visitors, but not only that our residents feel safe too, because we're such a tourism-driven city and town and state altogether. We want everybody to feel comfortable, not just those visiting us, but those that live here. Because, we all go out and listen to live music and drink a beer every now and then. So, yeah.
every now and then. It's become more frequent for me lately, but yeah. What I love though, and I want to touch on this just for a minute because you were talking about inspirational travel, and when it wasn't right. So in addition to the pandemic, you had some domestic terrorism that happened in your city as well. So it's just, I mean, 1-2 punch for you about people feeling safe. Message any different that you're portraying rather than pandemic? Is there a bridge there or a different message for either of those things?
So I'll go back to say that in March of 2020, we had a tornado through Nashville that damaged a good bit of not really the downtown area, but skimmed an area of downtown. And then my home in East Nashville, we had a little bit of damage here and near us. So it started with that, and then everything shut down. And then, yes, unfortunately, what happened on Christmas Day. So yes, there is a message of safety here. That was such an unfortunate event to take place that damaged a lot of Second Avenue businesses. But the Historic Commission has been working closely with a lot of those businesses to restore that historically correct. I probably said that wrong, but they have approved that process. And, Nashville is such a resilient town, and Kelly and our partners have really pulled us through a lot. We have all banded together, have similar messaging, have conversations on the regular that help us push out this safe message. So, where it started as a focus on COVID and where it can be interpreted like that, we also want, the message to carry through that in general, safety is our number one priority.
Love that. Urte, and I'm curious, and I ask this question a lot because Nashville is one of the first cities, and lots of cities have created their own safety program, with all of their partners like Kelly and your hotels. And does that make a difference to you when you're planning? Not only the city, the destination designation, but something more globally, like a WTTC destination for safety.
Certainly. I mean, safety is I think for everybody the number one reason to go back and travel, and it's the most important thing. What I have learned over the last few months is that, unfortunately, I have to say, each state does things differently when it means like allowing to travel for groups or schools to be open, or when I see that, for example, Texas groups are traveling to Florida, no problem. We are still dealing with the fact when our schools open safely, and we just have started a soft opening process here in Colorado, where mid-March certain school districts really will allow and let every student go back into the schools. My clients are totally willing to travel. They want to travel, but it is very, it's not difficult, but it's a different process to remind them that they're not the decision maker anymore of traveling, but the school districts are. And so navigating the safety is one thing, but then also informing them what the next steps are in order to bring back the safety travel is a whole different ballgame for us.
And that challenge is because it's district to district, city to city, state to state.
Yes, it is. It is. And then talking to different vendors, suppliers, it's like, okay, how do you open? When do you open? How does it look like? Will you need reservations? Can we just walk in? Stuff like that. There's so much more nitty gritty planning and having the answers for our clients, which is because we want to be right.
Right.
But we also know that tomorrow everything is different. So to bring back, to relate the message and say, but please stay flexible, it could change tomorrow, is somewhat of a challenge.
Right. And we know group travel, I mean, you try to be flexible, but it's hard. And you deal with, especially students, with a lot of parents.
Yes.
In addition to the teacher, in addition to the school.
And we know we can't be too flexible because, you have to adhere by certain itineraries. Parents want their pricing done. But yet, in a lot of ways, we don't know what that will look like. So it's a different type of challenge, I want to say.
Right. Because we needed some more of those. And so Kelly, tell us a little bit about what you're focused on now. You've been focused on, a plan to keep the doors open for the last 10 months. Moving into the first of the year, how are things going now, and kind of where is your focus to move forward?
When we started in May, I think our percentage of 2019 numbers, because that's what all of us are comparing back to, 2020 is kind of a wash. We're trying to get back to 2019. We were doing about 13 to 17%. So here you are in June, which is a prime travel time, the beginning of the summer, and we were doing 12 to 15%. That has gradually turned up, as we said when we talked about the dial, and we're at about 45% right now. So again, safety is the main thing, not just as our guests that come in, but also making sure that our staff is safe and that they feel safe and comfortable in the way that they're doing procedures now. They're not used to having plexiglass between them and interfacing with our customers, wearing masks, having their temperature taken, washing their hands all the time, but also relaying that information as guests come into the attraction. So we've started new protocols. When someone comes in, we not only tell them how great the figures are and a little bit of history about our figures, but we also remind them to stay 6 feet away from the group ahead of them. We go by the capacity limitations that we have and monitor those visits out. And we talk about the hand sanitation stations throughout the attraction. Keep their mask on, maybe take it for a quick picture, put it right back on. Madame Tussauds spent years saying, get up close to the figures, touch them, hug them, get your photos. And now we say, oh, don't touch, because it's very difficult to clean, and keep everything clean as well. But you can still get up close with the figures and take your photos and feel that connection and have that experience. It's just a little bit of a different experience. So we really try to make it as safe as we can. Amy had asked a question a moment ago too about, are we seeing an increase in group inquiries? Yes. And that would be over the past 3-4 weeks, possibly. The past week, it's really kicked up a little bit. And what we've noticed here at Madame Tussauds Nashville is that because of the slow travel planning season, because of the pandemic, people are doing 2 years at once now. So they're planning their 21 and their 22 in that one phone call. So that's very positive. We've probably taken about 10 reservations in the past couple of weeks, which is a lot more than the 10 cancellations we were getting on the phone 10 months ago. So we're very happy to be moving forward.
That's very positive. And Urte, have you seen the same thing? Are you getting more inquiries coming in?
Yes, actually, as a matter of fact, I piggyback on Kelly's comment. It's like, especially over the last 2 weeks, we have definitely gotten way more requests and really valuable requests with direct detail requests, proposal requests. Not so much for 21, but that lays in the fact that we usually plan our trips a year to 18 months out. So I'm not surprised there is not a request coming for 21. And as I mentioned before, our schools are not even full in session yet. So the last thing they are talking is trips. But I'm very excited for our clients to request 2022, possibly 2023. But whatever is in the future, at least gives us a chance to have hope that we move forward. So yeah, so I agree with Kelly 100%.
And Lisa asked a question. She wants to know if you think that's due, and total opinion question, is it due to the vaccine? Is it due to all of the stories coming out that people have opening plans? What do you think that that is attributed to?
All of the above.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I would think so too. It's I hate to say it, but it's almost like the new normal. And we just got used to live with this, or didn't get used to it, but close to it, if you know what I mean. It's like mask is normal, plexiglass is normal, social distancing is normal. And I think people get almost used to it. I mean, I can see that. I can speak from the standpoint of going skiing. People go skiing and keep their distance, when before there was no distance in lines. So it's like people adjust.
Right.
And I think we've all been in long enough to start getting that cabin fever. Now that we know the safety precautions, now that we know the vaccine's out there, everyone is inching out a little bit more and pushing a little bit further with the positive news that we've all heard about the vaccine and how we're improving.
Right.
Virus and numbers dropping.
I completely agree with that. Numbers are dropping, you know, by state, by city, by nationally. You know, we've gotten to the point that we look at those numbers every day now, right? But we're learning how to live with our new normal. You know, it's the buzzword that I never like to say, but I end up saying it all the time. And I think people are feeling more comfortable because they were feeling more comfortable because they learned how to live with what was going on in the world. And then you add the vaccines on top of that, and you add opening stories on top of that. And I think consumer sentiment's just really going up, which is great to see. LouAnna, what about inquiries at the Bureau? Have you been getting more requests for itineraries or assistance in planning?
Yeah, we've definitely felt the momentum shift in the past 2 weeks. Now, our convention sales team, they've been feeling it for a little bit longer, but of course, you know, they're booking further out. So they're getting inquiries for 23, 24, even 2030. For our tourism team specifically, we've felt it in the past few weeks. What we have on the books as far as group travel is concerned coming up, we do have some arrivals in March, one next week actually, and then it kind of picks up from there. So March, April, May, you add a few groups on here and there. June is pretty big. And we're also seeing some big events that are holding on, which is kind of, you know, it gives us more of that light at the end of the tunnel. And I think it also encourages some of the travel trade to feel a little more confident that things are going to remain steady. Because I think that was an issue at some point was, you know, what if they roll things back and we have to cancel or we have to change this and change that. So now there's a little bit more confidence seeing that, you know, we have the Grand Prix, we have the ACMs coming up. Now those will definitely look different than I think originally imagined, right? Because we'll probably still have social distancing in place. I don't see that going away, likely masks as well. But I think the confidence is there that these things will happen. And then looking, you know, for us, and I think it's probably the same story for lots of destinations, that the last half of the year is looking really strong. Especially as you view into October and going into November and our Christmas season too. So yeah, we're feeling the shift and feeling the requests come in, and excited to see some spring groups that are planning to travel safely.
I love that. And I love that you have some, you know, just in a couple of weeks. I mean, for both you and Kelly, that's great. So we've asked this question over and over again. I'm just trying to get an idea of how people are going to be living and traveling within this new parameters that we have set up. So Urte, I'm going to ask you, when you're planning, most of it is request. I know your teachers coming in saying we need to do X, Y, Z, but are you seeing a shift in what they're requesting? Are they requesting more tertiary destinations or attractions? Are they requesting to stay kind of outside the gateway and something maybe a little more rural? Are you seeing any of that?
Not necessarily that way. I think the strongest change we feel is that international travel is unfortunately pretty much on a back burner for our groups. While we always have had groups requesting international travel, right now the clear indication is the districts will not allow them. We try to send out a survey asking a little about can you travel within the state? Can you travel out of state? That seems to be the same and not much of a difference. But again, since we customize all our tours, we are a little bit on the mercy of our suppliers. If they're not open, I cannot customize the trip. You know, if they don't know how the opening will look like, I cannot customize a trip. So there's not really a shift on my client's side, more so on the attraction side, I have to say, because I have to think outside the box. If I want to sell something for 2022, I better make sure that it's up and running. And how will it look like? So that's more the shift I can see.
Okay. Are there any safety requirements that you are mandating, you know, that attraction? I can't, imagine attractions wouldn't accommodate that, or hotels wouldn't accommodate that right now, but anything that's top priority for you?
It's not so much the mandating part. It's more like I would like to have some strict guidelines from certain suppliers, which I can relate to the schools. And then at the same time, I work with the schools to ask what they're mandating. On our end, not so much, because it changes so quickly. The only thing I would probably recommend highly, not mandate, is the insurance part. We were lucky because in Colorado, we have always insured our groups due to snowstorms, not due to pandemics. And it has been for a lot of our clients, the saving grace last year. So I want to say we recommend, we do not mandate, but it's our job to be as forthcoming and as transparent as we can be.
And Kelly, when you were open, you guys have put in, and as a whole, Merlin Entertainments as a whole has done some great safety precautions and updates to all of your facilities and brands. But have you had any requests that were difficult to handle? Or how accommodating have you been in this time when we're trying to get the doors open? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. How is some things too accommodating? I'll throw that question out there.
We will do whatever we can to accommodate. We're all in this together. Although we all are running on lower staff numbers than pre-COVID, we will open early, we will step a little late. We did have a particular group a few months ago that had another venue cancel on them, and everything else, they had just altered their trip, changed their itinerary, moved their dates. And when this last cancellation came, they just needed a fill-in. So we took one of our stage type themed rooms that has a lot of figures of celebrities in it. We brought in a songwriter. We brought in a winery and did wine tastings. We set it up. We put everyone 6 feet apart and set it up and did a show out of that room from the songwriter where they talked and went interactive and back and forth exchange to accommodate that live entertainment that they were looking for before they left town. So we are all in this together. I can't say that enough. And we'll do what we have to do. And if that's opening early, if that's working with special budgets, we need to accommodate. I feel we'll all come back stronger. 9/11, I guess, is the closest we have to compare to something like this that we have to build back from. But I think the learnings that we're learning along the way is also opening up new opportunity for us to expand our offerings. We didn't think we had a songwriter showcase that we could offer. We do now.
That's what I was about to ask you. I'm like, talk about partnerships that you never would have even thought about doing in 2019. It's opened up just a new product offering for you. You can do it now. I love that. I want to ask if it will continue into 2022 when things start getting a little bit back to normal. But I think it's great that you were able to make that accommodation.
I think we all have to think a little bit outside the box nowadays.
Yeah.
And be a little bit, like I said, flexible and be innovative. And
yeah,
I could not agree more. And LouAnna, when we're talking about the tertiary, types of destinations, has that changed? I mean, you guys have always done a great job of promoting everything within your destination, but has it changed some of the things that you've highlighted? Have you gone out to look for that live like a local, the place down the street from your house that maybe just, your community went? Have you started promoting different things like that?
We did see that a lot in 2020. So we had quite a bit of marketing focus on our outdoor destinations. Our weather in Tennessee is pretty good all the way through November most of the time. So we did focus heavily on our outdoor attractions that maybe, our normal traveler might not be as aware of, just because we see a lot of music travel, right? So people that want live music, and which we were still able to thankfully have. We have so many musicians in town, and it was certainly a sad thing to see none of them being able to do any work. So we've had live music around for a while, but we wanted people to feel like there were other options to come to Nashville that they may not be as aware of. Cheekwood Botanical Gardens had a Chihuly exhibit last year that they carried over into the spring of this year, whereas Cheekwood has a big local draw. It didn't have as many visitors coming in, and they were building that visitation from out of town, but I think it just kind of amplified their exposure, being able to showcase that we have this great gem of an estate and garden that you can come and walk around. If you're distance enough, you can take your mask off. So it felt a little freeing for people. So we certainly saw that and a different focus there. Speaking to the whole state of Tennessee, that's really true in the state visitation numbers, right? You look at East Tennessee and the Smoky Mountains and Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge area, they've continued to do so well throughout the pandemic. And we're so thankful for that, because their whole message is come get outdoors, stay in a cabin with your family. So that has helped sustain Tennessee's tourism. And we're so thankful for those partners, because in times like this, you know, you are what you are, right? So we've got some options, but we've all partnered together for so many years. And I think I couldn't be more thankful to have those people in places outside of Nashville that can kind of help and support and carry us through. And I think Tennessee tourism and the whole hospitality industry here would agree with that.
Absolutely. Not only just, you know, statewide, but I've seen a lot of coast to coast partnership, you know, trying to your point, or to think outside the box, you know, creating opportunities and partnering with someone on a different coast that creates a really unique option for people. So state to state, coast to coast, tri-state, really creating some regional things. Those are, every time I see itineraries like that, it makes me happy, because really people are out there and trying. And Mike from Branson, from Sight and Sound Theaters, just let us know too that they've been seeing an increase in bookings as well. So schools traveling, to your point, or from Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, from that area, that they've been seeing those bookings increase for this year as well, which is super exciting that we're seeing that growth coming up. When we're talking, and Kelly gave us a great example of you know, turning her museum into a live music venue, which she never thought she would have done. What are some of the other out of the box ideas that would make you happy, Urte? You know, what are some of the things that when you're looking, you do custom tours, but when you're looking for that unique item, we used to say live like a local all the time, right? That was the thing that what is it now? You know, what is it that we're looking for?
Well, I think to Kelly's point, she mentioned that she's basically working with the client, you know, making things possible. If, let's say, you have to open early, or you have to stay late, or what I'm looking for is really like the flexibility on both ends. Like for me to have a partner I can talk to and say, this is what we're looking for. Is this something you can work with us? Or, and not these are my rules, and either you comply by these rules or we cannot work together, you know, because right now certain things happen. Just a shout out to Branson. In the past, when we have had groups, if we booked a venue which was outside and it was raining, we sometimes didn't even know that all these vendors talked amongst each other and switched our itinerary around to make our groups super comfortable and fix a problem we didn't even know existed at that time. So just the flexibility, you know, and the conversation. It's like it goes both ways. Like Kelly said, we are all in it together, and it's a great feel to know that we all try to succeed together.
That's a great lesson, and a great best practice. And LouAnna, you know, reaching into your community. I mean, we hear this a lot, like last year, and you touched on it just a minute, just for a second earlier. We had a marketing webinar yesterday that really talked about targeting certain business opportunities, you know, that would work for their city. And a lot of it was making sure that their residents felt comfortable with tourism coming back. And I thought that was just fascinating when they were talking about that yesterday. So at your monthly meetings that every bureau does with their partnership, you know, or newsletters to their partnership, have you tackled some of those items? Have you tackled some of the working with each other and supporting each other and thinking out of the box and creating some of those different opportunities?
You know, I'm thankful to say that a lot of those conversations happen organically. We've had, you know, we're fortunate to have a town that does work really well together, people that you would consider in just looking on the surface as a competitor. It's not like that. And I think the creative force in Nashville drives that. We're a collaborative city all around. We were built from a foundation of collaboration. So that weaves its way through. And, you know, I think a lot of other destinations can say the same thing, but, you know, I'm thankful to have that creative spirit. That's just the energy in the air. And at a time when we needed each other most and we couldn't see each other in person, those were the conversations that we were having, you know, between our partners and our hotel partners as well. Their flexibility has been key. And I saw someone say that in the chat. That is the name of the game, not only from a client standpoint, like Urte and our tour operators, but from my standpoint too. I need our suppliers to be as flexible as possible because I'm kind of in between, right? Talking to the clients, talking to my partners, and that's been key for us. But we definitely have had a lot of collaboration between, but making sure, hey, if we're staying open until 7, you know, we should also push this attraction partner, see if they want to do the same and kind of keep the city on the same lines. But we did the same with our health and safety program locally, is that we wanted everyone to be on the same page so that when you're coming to a destination and clients and tour operators are seeing such vast differences between destinations and locations and unsure, we wanted them to arrive in the city of Nashville and feel like pretty much everything was on the same page, right? They weren't having to decipher between this attraction and what are their protocols and what are these protocols. That was a big driving force between some of the health and safety conversations that we had at the very beginning was, how do we make this easier for our clients that are going through such a tough time right now? What can they be assured in when they come and visit the city?
I love that. So you mentioned that, you know, and Urte mentioned her schools aren't open yet, right? And but there's still that opportunity to stay in front of everyone. And we're moving from inspirational to more action when it comes to marketing. What, you know, taking out what marketing looked like in 2019, because I think that we can't compare ourselves to 2019, at least for a while yet. We're all kind of starting fresh and new. What does marketing look like for you right now? And Kelly, I'm going to start with you from an attraction standpoint. You know, what is the marketing you're doing? What does it look like? How are you getting the word out?
It's interesting because you're right, Sherry. It has totally changed the way we operate. Not only do you not have the robust budget that you complained about in 2019, boy, you know, go back in hindsight, but you have less resources as well because of different structures and restructuring and all. So you go back to guerrilla, but you also have to be very careful not to put the wrong tone voice out there. You know, when your mayor's asking everyone to stay home and when the country's asking people not to travel, when your company's asking people not to travel. Can you still hear me, Sherry?
Yes, we can hear you now. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then you really don't want to go out and say, everybody come, we've got this special deal at Madame Tussauds, please come. So you're balancing that act of what's going on in the environment. Ensure that you're just staying relevant if you can. One of the things that our marketing manager did, and a huge shout out to Stephanie that I thought was very clever, was around the holidays. We knew that everybody was going to have to go on maybe Zoom calls to to be with their family and to be with their loved ones during special times that normally they would be right in front of you. So she created some backdrops for Skype and for Zoom and these back rooms, like Miley Cyrus on a wrecking ball coming through with some message of, you know, let's wreck out 2020 and on with 21, or Minnie Pearl in the background to say, you know, you may not be able to be with your whole family, but Cousin Minnie's here. It wasn't come to Madame Tussauds, but it was a way to keep us relevant. Maybe in the background, but that's where we belonged, you know, during that time. So I think that's one way that we're looking at it. Another way is the partnering. We just created a wax and wine ticket. We've never really thought about that, but you can come to Madame Tussauds, go through the attraction, and go to Amber Falls Winery and have a wine tasting. So we're targeting the girls groups with our wax and wine. And again, Urte, I have to say, these are things thinking out of the box that we didn't think of before that suddenly turns around and expands our offerings to groups, to, you know, domestic, international, to all segments. And that's our marketing. We have gone back very much to guerrilla marketing, less print, more social engagement, and until we can get back to normal.
You're not alone. A
No.
lot of people have done that. Yeah. But I do love that you're reaching out to non-traditional partnerships. You know, before it might have been the museum down the street or the restaurant down the street, not necessarily something so unique and inventive that keeps maybe out, you know, you open later, but more people coming in and more opportunity. And LouAnna, you touched a little bit on you're moving into a action marketing plan right now. You have videos that are coming out. I can only imagine what they are. I can't wait to see them. But what are the other items, you know, that you're going to tell me where you're going to be, tell me what your marketing strategy is for at least, you know, the next month or so, moving into what we hope is a fun, busy summer, or at least busier than last year.
Yeah, so I mean, we definitely will have a regional push for that drive market, but we've seen over the years, we've kind of swayed more and more towards a fly market here. So surprisingly enough, we had just some data come in for bookings that came in through our leisure side. So individuals, twos, fours, that kind of thing, but gives us great insight into the group traveler as well and what the desire is and where people are coming from. We actually had a good bit of interest from California, which is a fly market for us, which is a state that has been pretty strictly locked down. So we kind of had to change a little bit of what we thought was going to happen into, wait, we still have to focus on those markets that have always been pretty heavy for us back in 2019, because it looks like not just the regional market is interested in traveling to Nashville in the next 6 months. So our message that we're putting out is a heavy focus on what is new, what you can see. And that really kind of lends itself to say it's people that have visited Nashville before, right? So because the borders are still closed internationally, a lot of the international market, it might be their second time visiting or their third time visiting the United States. It's likely their first time visiting Nashville. So we aren't pushing as much internationally right now. We have done some marketing with Brand USA in Canada, and that partnership for us is Rhythms of the South. So that's Nashville, Atlanta, and New Orleans. And we've seen a good bit of interest from that. And that is more of that inspirational message because it's going to be a little bit of time. But domestically here, we want people to know while you've been away, we've been creating new music, we've been opening new restaurants, we've been developing new hotels. And that's one of the silver linings, I guess, of the pandemic and less traffic and things being shut down. Our construction projects moved along much quicker. So everything that was set to open before all this happened opened on time or is opening. So that's really a big part of our message. And we've drawn a lot from local celebrities to be able to speak to that, right? People that are living here that have come to this town to build a career. We need their belief in it to push forward the belief that we are a destination worth visiting, right? So it's definitely different per region, but I think, you know, our focus is more of here's what you haven't seen, right? Here's some new things, and here's some of the positive news that's come from what felt like zero positivity for so long.
Right, right. So what do you consider your drive market now? This is just a total random question, you know, because it's going to be different for everyone. But we talked about this last week on the webinar, you know, how your drive market has moved from 4 to 6 hours to something much, much bigger. What are you guys marketing to as drive market right now?
Sorry, I was muted. I have some data that I got yesterday, and I was going to pull that up because it surprisingly hasn't changed that much. Okay. But we have, you know, we've always had a little bit of a focus on Cincinnati and Indianapolis. So those are drivable, larger cities nearby, Atlanta as well. Let me see if I can find, we have an Intercept study that kind of pushes that forward. If I can't find that, I'm happy to share it with anybody. It's just not on the top of my head. We do it by state and by city in these drive markets. So our regional advertising, I did find it here. So we target Memphis, Knoxville, within the state of Tennessee, but then going into Lexington and Louisville, Birmingham and Atlanta, and add Indianapolis and Cincinnati on some of those campaigns too. And what we consider our drive market is the 300-mile radius.
Yeah. And that's the norm, right? But I think, you know, we started thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be so much bigger, you know, moving. It may not, but you know, people feeling more comfortable driving and expanding. I made the joke last week that my mom, we live in Florida, my mom wants to drive to the national parks. That's like, we'd kill the curve, right? That's like a ginormous drive market. But we're, that's always something to keep in mind, you know, as you're moving. Or to what, you know, how are you staying in front of your groups? You know, how is, clearly marketing has changed for you. But are you doing any active marketing right now? Are you reaching out right now to anyone?
Well, it's more like what we have shifted to is more like a newsletter stage, where we send out information when it becomes available about updates on vendors, hotels, destinations in general, updates on what the new safety guidelines might look like, what do motor coach companies do in order to keep you safe, you know, updates again on insurances, whatever we can get our hands on. And we always remind our clients that this might change along the way, but just to stay relevant is really like just to say, we're here for you. This is what you can expect right now. And when we talk about driving market, interesting enough, even for us in Colorado, that's something we consider, because if we fly right now, what does it look like if somebody gets sick? That person is stuck no matter what. If we use a drive market, and our drive market goes as far as Anaheim, San Antonio, Texas, I mean, like really far distances. So we're talking about 24-hour drives, but at least they wouldn't necessarily be stuck. They could still come back home. And that's something we have been talking to our clients about right now, which will change along the way because of vaccinations and everything, but something to definitely consider, because we notice a lot of our clients that they don't think that far out. What could happen? And again, we stay relevant with newsletters and sometimes surveys, but more so like newsletters right now.
So remember, and this is just, you know, random comment. Remember when newsletters were becoming passé and you just didn't want to do them anymore, and how we've reverted back to how important they are to keep people updated on your destination and all of everything's changed. I love that. But go ahead, Kelly.
I have something to add. I think when we talked about the marketing, what are we doing different? I think we're partnering with others better so that we get the exposure of their audience and the exposure of our audience for them. So I think that's something big. And the example goes back to that songwriters night. It was, you know, the tour operator actually called LouAnna and said, we've got a problem. What are we going to do? And so LouAnna puts on her thinking hat and says, you know, there's this great room at Madame Tussauds. And that's kind of how that whole ball started rolling. And then we roped in the hotel provider for that client, and roped in the other venues to make it work around their itinerary and schedule. So I think our marketing dollars also are going that way, to where we reach out to our partners and say, okay, we're going to do this do you want to go in on this, or this package, you promote it from your website, we'll promote it from ours.
And that is a great point. You know, when you think about co-op marketing, before it was co-oping directly with your client, you know, with the tour operators out there, or the CVB creating a co-op opportunity that people bought into. But Kelly, you're reaching out just attraction to attraction, and you're co-oping what you're doing there. And I think that that's super smart. You know, stay engaged with your bureau partner, because they'll have a larger reach for you. But when you're doing something very specific and targeting a certain type of group to pull your money, it goes further. You have different client bases, and it opens that up for you, which I think is spectacular. I wanted to come back to your newsletters for just a minute, Urte, and I know that the question's out there, and I know that LouAnna would have the same question, and Kelly would have the same question. When you're putting newsletters out there to your groups, is there a way that anyone on the call, or destinations or attractions, and can they partner with you? Can they send you information? Do you highlight certain
Oh,
areas?
absolutely. I mean, as honestly as more is better, because what we're focusing right now is obviously on the safety and how can travel look like. But ultimately, it's like I'm always searching for new ideas as well, what we could do. And yeah, as more information is better, to be very honest. I mean, I love the Zoom idea, by the way, Kelly, with the background. I mean, these are little things, but they go a far distance, to be very honest. So yes, absolutely.
You guys heard it here. She's looking for new stuff. And that brings up a point. Lisa asked a question if we would share the contact information from our panelists, and absolutely. Our panelists are great. They put their information out there so they can answer questions offline, or you can reach out and continue this thread of conversations with them. I promised you guys this would go fast, and we have 8 minutes left. So I knew that this would be a quick one. So really, you know, I want to get your opinion on what should people be focusing on right now. We know what you're focusing on, but what are the most valuable things that we can do right now to prepare for hopefully that amazing June that we're all keeping our fingers crossed for. We have some groups that are booking. We have some groups that are traveling in the next couple of months. But you know, every research study I've listened to recently has said, you know, summer and into the rest of the year, and certainly look for a strong next year. So what should we be doing right now to make that positive for us? And I'm going to put you on the spot first, LouAnna.
We've been hearing this for quite some time now, but you know, we're on the home stretch, but I still think we can't let our guard down, right? So I think, you know, it's important that we stay safe and we follow our local guidelines, and we respect each other, and we respect the guidelines that have set in place. You know, it's every time we get a little bit of good news, it seems recently things have gone back the other way. So I think the most important thing right now is keeping the faith, but continuing to be diligent and riding this out just a little bit longer and kind of holding on, but also leaning on each other. I mean, it's been a tough several months not being able to see people. And I know I've said that several times, but I think this industry knows that it's been one of the hardest parts of being locked up is not seeing each other, but continuing to lean on each other and ask for help when it's needed, and partnering with each other when you can, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel, and continue to do that. And that's why I will say these webinars have been so beneficial for me. I think one of the best ones that I listened to earlier this year was, I think, Pennsylvania and Hershey Park, and some of the things that those folks were doing to sustain, and it just gave me a little bit of positivity. But yeah, I say be diligent, don't let your guard down, stay strong, but continue to wear your mask so that we can in the summertime get to that point. Get your vaccines when you can, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Urte, what do we need to be doing when we reach out to clients? What should we be doing right now to help you be successful?
Well, what I have always believed in ever since March of last year is, it hasn't changed, is be honest and be transparent. That's for me the most important part with my clients. I have had, as every other tour operator, gotten some nasty phone calls, some nasty emails from parents. And whenever I reached out to them and whenever I picked up the phone and tried to weather the storm, all I noticed was people were just scared. They didn't know either. And all they wanted is some explanation. What happens to their money? Where does it go from there? What can they expect in the future? How long will it take? And whenever I was honest, and I told them honestly, I really don't know, but I keep you posted, I have come across that everybody calmed down. So it was just the fear of the unknown. And if we stay honest and if we stay transparent, I think we can manage. People will travel again, no question. But we can't hide behind certain things in the future. I don't think that will happen.
Right. And Kelly, what about you? What from an attraction point of view, what has been important to focus on to plan for your success for the rest of this year?
I think one of the things that Merlin did that was really impactful was we added to our KPI surveys, our key performance indicators, safety questions. So we're asking our customers, how do you feel? Did this make you feel better? What did you think about, this particular measure or that particular measure? If there's something we're not doing that you would like to see us do, and then we take action on those and monitor those results, because not only with our customers, but also with our employees. The safer everyone feels, the more they're going to get out and return to what we all want to be the new normal. So it's very important that we constantly monitor how we're doing to achieve that and what we're not doing that maybe we should be doing that we haven't thought of that somebody else has. So I think just to monitor before something turns into a problem and to ask the guests, what would you like to see? How did this go? Was your experience as good as it could have been pre-COVID as post-COVID? And we follow that feedback.
I think that's great. So we have 2 minutes, so it's going to be kind of like quick and rapid, right? So look into your crystal ball. When are things picking up? When are they looking better? Or words of wisdom, right? Real quick, what are a couple words of wisdom that we need just to get through the rest of this week and the weekend? Urte, I'm going to go to you.
Okay, I have to say, quick wisdom, the last 2 weeks have already been way more uplifting than the past. So I'm looking forward to having continuous conversations with my clients.
Beautiful. Love it. LouAnna.
I think stay positive, keep the faith, and, be there for people when they need you, and make sure that you are that honest person. I loved that comment, Urte, because that's so true. The honesty is got to be there, because sometimes you just don't know. And that's okay to say, I just don't know.
Right. Absolutely. And Kelly, what do you think? Words of wisdom.
It's not my original quote, but change is mandatory, growth is optional. And I think as long as we look at what we've gone through, we have to get something from this, right, guys? What we've endured this past year, something has to come from it. So let's grow with the opportunity of the change and make it better and come back even stronger.
Gosh knows I didn't plan to end with that, but how awesome is that? Way to go, Kelly. So I want to thank everyone. Thank you for taking the time. It means so much to everyone that tunes in week after week, just to have these open conversations that we can take little tidbits from and use what makes sense for us to move forward. So you taking the time out of your day to do this for everyone means a lot, and we really appreciate it. We are excited because we have planned a slate of shows this year that we didn't get to do last year, and the first one is coming up in May in Vegas. So with a domestic tour component as well as a receptive component. If you want to know more about the shows that we have planned throughout the year, definitely let us know. We're really thrilled on the domestic front that we're partnering with US Travel this year and producing a domestic face-to-face show at IPW on the IPW floor. A partnership we never thought would happen as we talk about partnerships, right? So knowing that one-stop shopping, you can do international, you can do domestic, and you can have one travel that's happening in September. Would love to talk to you about it. And until then, we have another great panel coming up next week. And so be sure to come back with us next week. And then, if you can believe it, at the end of March will be a 1-year anniversary that we've been doing these every week, stay in touch with each other. So that's going to be a lot of fun too. Everyone have a great weekend. Panel, Kelly and Urte and LouAnna, thank you very much for being with us today. I love talking to you. And we will see each other back next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.